Thanks for joining us for the Executive Series. Today I'm joined by Alex Vynokur, who is the Managing Director of BetaShares. Alex, great to see you again.
Good to see you too, Tom.
Now, one of the strengths of your business is that you are very much on the front foot in terms of developing new products that are quite topical and very current. And you've done this again with your Cybersecurity ETF. Let's talk a bit about that.
Indeed. Well, look, we at BetaShares certainly believe in bringing to Australian investors global opportunities which help them diversify portfolio, defend portfolios where possible, but also provide exposure to growth. Global cybersecurity is a very fast-growing segment of the economy. More and more of us are connected to the internet. At the moment, there's over 2 billion people that are connected to the internet. And over the next 5 years, it is estimated that that number will double to 4 billion people. As our activities are increasing over the internet, our wallets are moving into the cloud, more and more of our transactions are being done online. The unfortunate flip side of that is cybercrime is growing at the rate of knots. And it has been, in fact, growing exponentially. And it's currently costing the global economy over $3 trillion per annum, which is approximately 4% of the global GDP. So what we believe in is the fact that cybercrime is not going to stop anytime soon. From an investment perspective, it provides a really interesting opportunity, not just for Australian investors, but for global investors, to obtain exposure to companies that are helping combat cybercrime. So by putting together the ETF hack, which is now trading on the ASX, we are allowing investors in one simple trade to obtain exposure to the largest 30 or so companies which are involved in the business of combating cybercrime.
Indeed, so that's a pretty good range of organisations. Now, obviously, they must span different jurisdictions, have different penetrations into different parts of the digital world. Let's talk a little more about the organisations that you've chosen.
Indeed. Well, look, the 30 or so companies that I was mentioning, those are global leaders, and some of the names will be very familiar to Australian investors. Will be names like Symantec, which produce the antiviruses that we, that we deploy on our personal computers. At the same time, there are companies such as FireEye, which are one of the global leaders in cybercrime, but they operate at the government levels and the large corporate levels. So they would count, multinational corporations and some of the largest governments and security agencies as their clients. So the index goes through a fairly rigorous assessment of companies that are leaders in their sphere. I must say that the average market capitalization of companies that are included in this index is approximately $15 billion. So these are not startup companies, which carry startup risks. These are established global leaders. And as you pointed out, Tom, the jurisdictions from which they come from are quite varied. A large number of those companies are from the US because they're listed on NASDAQ, but also there are companies from the Netherlands, from Israel, which is one of the global leaders in cybersecurity, and some of the other countries. So all of these companies are included in the index, and in one simple trade, Australian investors can now get exposure to those sorts of stocks.
Indeed. So you can see quite a lot of volatility in this group. So that's obviously why you have chosen such a big number to try and perhaps moderate that aspect.
Indeed. If I can just mention a couple of stats, which I personally find very fascinating. So the growth, the rate of growth of revenues, of the companies in this index has been over 60% per annum. Which is quite a staggering number. I mean, there's very few companies on the ASX, and indeed very few companies in the S&P 500, which can generate that level of growth. So these are companies which are obviously leaders, but they're still fast-growing companies, and that's really reflecting the fact that cybercrime is growing and investment in cybersecurity is growing quite fast. At the same time, if you look at the index, and that index that the ETF is tracking is the NASDAQ Global Cybersecurity Index, and once again, our website, betashares.com.au, has the details of that index. The performance, the track record of that index since launch in 2010 has been over 11% per annum annualized up until now. So we're seeing significant growth in revenues, but at the same time, we're also seeing a significant growth in share prices of those stocks as more and more investors are realizing that cybercrime is not a temporary fad. This is really a very fast-growing industry, and these companies are solving global problems.
Indeed. Now, if a customer was interested in buying into the Hack ETF, how would they go about it?
Buying a Hack ETF, just like buying any other ETF, is as simple as buying a share. So if you're a CommSec client, if you type in the ticker Hack, HACK, into the ticker box, just as you would with BHP or CBA or Rio, you'll see the information about the ETF, and you can place a buy or a sell order during Australian market hours. So the great benefit of Hack being available to Australian investors is that it's available during Australian market hours. So you can buy and sell with complete transparency, with liquidity and with a peace of mind.
Alex, great to talk to you. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Good to see you again.
And thanks for joining us for the Executive Series.